Hey Scrappy friends, it's Audrey. Welcome to my channel. I have a video today for Confessions of a Paper Addict cut files, and I am using a new release. There is a new cut file every day this month in August, and this one is simply titled Bugs. It is a stitch file, so there are some stitching lines, and I want to show you how I'm going to manipulate this file. So I want to separate the the title from the stitched areas. And I don't want those stitched areas exactly as they are in this cut file. I kind of want to place them relative to my photos. So I have separated the title from the bugs and their stitching lines. And I'm going to go in and draw some rectangles that are the shape of my photos, which are 3 by 4. And so 3 by 4, and I'll fill in those shapes. I will bring them to the front. And fill them in. And again, these are just placeholders of where my photos are going to go. And this helps me gauge the size of the cut files that I want to design, or the cut files I want to use, and kind of just placement and spacing. So I have the 2 photos there with the title. And then I'm just going to take these bugs with their stitch lines and kind of place them around my photos where I kind of want them coming out from the photos and from the page. So once I have done that and I get my placement done, everything where I wanted, the next thing I'm going to do is I want these bugs by the stitching lines to kind of pop off the page. So I'm going to cut them out separately. So I am just going to copy and paste the bugs into their own kind of cut file. And I'm going to cut them out of black cardstock. And so there you can see there, I have the bugs cut out of black cardstock, and I cut the title out of white cardstock. I also went back and just cut the bugs again from the title so that I could put the black cardstock over the title and kind of define those bugs in the title a little bit more. So I am using the new Simple Stories line called Bro & Co. And it's obviously a boy-themed line, which I love. It's more kind of teen boy. I have a 9-year-old, so it's still a little bit young, but still some cute little icons and sayings and stuff. So you can see that I saved the insides of my letters, and the reason I did that is because I'm going to trace them. And I'm tracing them and then cutting out around my traced line. And then that gives me a pretty accurate background for backing this file, backing each letter. And by the way, when I traced it, I traced the letter backwards on the back side of the paper so that my pencil lines are not on the side of the paper that I want showing. So if you see here, I'm using the orange side. I want the orange side to show. So I actually traced my cut file backwards on the back of the orange paper. And that way, again, just the orange shows and I don't get the pencil lines. I do have to do some cleaning up around the edges a little bit of each letter, but it's fine. So there you can see I have all the letters done, and then I went through and backed all the insects. And now I'm taking those black outlines that I made for each insect, and then I'm going to put those on top. And it just makes those bugs pop right off the title there when you use a different color. I'd consider doing them in like a navy blue or something, but I think the black outline is really good here. And it just adds good definition. Instead of cutting out the black separately, you could always go over certain areas with a Sharpie, which I've done before on cut files if you want a particular area to stand out. And actually you can see here this little bug I'm putting down, I actually accidentally cut off one of his legs. So the top little leg there is still white. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to color that leg in with a marker here, and you're not even going to really notice that happened. Okay, so I also had to cut the stitched lines out. So I actually made 3 cuts. I cut the title out of white, I cut the bugs out of black, and then I cut my background paper, which you can see the stitch holes there on my background paper very lightly. Now, I'm going to add some mixed media on this background, and what happens here is as I'm adding my gesso to the background, it's obviously filling in all those little stitched holes that I just cut. So I might recommend that if you do a strategy like this, that you first gesso your paper and then go back and cut it out. I don't know if that would work as well, but it's worth a try. I put too much gesso on there, so I'm going to scrape some of that off. And I will go, I actually, I don't know if I show this, but I will go through and like blast that with the heat gun a little bit just to get it to dry quicker. So yeah, so now you can't see the holes anymore, but you can still see them on the back, and that's the important thing here. So before I go back to the holes, let me add on my mixed media. I just got these 2 new colors of Distress Oxide. All of my stuff, by the way, I buy from Paper Issues when I purchase scrappy stuff online. If it's not a kit, I love Paper Issues. And the shipping is extremely fast. But Cassie had the new Distress Oxide inks in the store, some of them, and this color is perfect. I love it. It's like speckled egg or something, and then the other one is something sage. But there's no green in this collection, in this paper collection, which I kind of wish there was this kind of sage green, but I had a little bit in because there is some green in my photos. It's not the same shade of green, but I just thought that I wanted a little tiny bit of green there in the background. But I'm kind of just filling in, as you can see, just kind of a center square of mixed media, and then I'm kind of leaving the edges a little bit white. And I'll just do some green splatters. And I just wanted to make sure it wasn't too green, so I'll go back and dab some of that off. And that kind of blends really nicely. I just love Distress Oxides in using those. And then I'm going to go back with a few splatters of a kind of a brownish color. It's an old Mr. Huey's called Clay. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So now what I would do is I just take my needle and I went to the back of the paper and I just re-poked the holes. You could see them. I know that kind of defeats the purpose of cutting it in the first place, but at least the holes are there. There's space. I don't really have to press really hard. It's just a little bit of paint, and the design is already there, so that makes it a little bit more convenient. And now I'm going to stitch. I'm using just a 6-ply embroidery floss that I don't use all 6 plies. I use I pull the thread in half. I'm only using a 3-ply. And what I decided to do is, when I'm thinking about these lines behind the bugs, I didn't want it to be a solid line. I wanted it to be like a dashed stitched line. So I'm only going over every other section there between the dots, so you can see that. Yeah, I wanted the dashed lines instead of a solid line. So I just filled in every other space. So this took most of my time, right? Doing the mixed media background, doing my hand stitching, backing my cut file. But I already have a lot of elements on the page here, and I don't really need to do a lot more embellishing or adding things because a lot of the design is already here. That's why I love working with big cut files because, especially titles, it takes a lot of the guesswork out of what am I going to put here. Like when you have one big cut file that's backed with a lot of pattern paper, that's going to be a focal point for your page, so you don't really need to add a ton more stuff. But I do. Another 10 more. I'd go back and add a few bits here, but I need a spot for journaling, and I'm going to try to balance out the yellow I have on the page because I have some yellow bugs and a yellow label at the top, so I will use that yellow journaling spot. And just a couple more phrase stickers. This is a die cut pack, or maybe it's the journaling pack. There's a journaling pack and a die cut pack, and chipboard. So I love the font of these kind of scripty words that say "so cool," and I will use this word "awesome" on the side. So my title will be "Awesome Bugs." I kind of play around with where to put it. I don't like the crooked. I know it bothers some people when you put text going 2 different directions. So the awesome is going, bottom to top sideways, and the bugs is going top to bottom 1 letter at a time, but it's fine. I had considered using some of those other big words, but I didn't want to take away from the title that said bugs. This little sheet of like 3-dimensional bugs I found at Hobby Lobby in their sticker section, and it's their brand, the Paper Studio brand. I love this little pack of bugs. It's so cute. So I added just some flies there on the page. But yeah, I can't, oh my gosh, it's adorable. I love that there's like a centipede and all kinds of cool bugs on that sheet. So now I'm just going to pop everything up off the page, and I have some foam square pieces I'm using, and I'm just going to cut those down and put them behind my letters. And it doesn't have to be perfect here, you know, just little your scraps of craft foam are perfect for this when you're backing a cut file. And then I will use my my tape runner to adhere that down. I will put some craft foam behind my photos as well. Now you notice I don't put a piece of foam that covers the whole back of the photo. I think, though, you'll see me, I actually go back and add another slight piece of foam behind the top photo because it kind of is a little wobbly at the top of that photo, and it doesn't have the support that the middle of the photo does. So yeah, here I go back and add another. So I think I need to start being more mindful of making sure my craft foam behind my photos really fills up the back of the photo. I added a few more stickers and a piece of flair, and that's it. I really didn't do too much more embellishing on this page, but you can see the close-ups of that awesome cut file and these 3D layered stickers and the stitching, and still lots of fun stuff to see. So that is it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by, and make sure you go check out all the new cut files this month in Confessions of a Paper Addict store. Thanks for watching, and stay scrappy, friends.